Welcome to another Living Water Wednesday. I am your senior elder and pastor, Reuben L. Young, serving under the Honorable Chief Apostle Michael L. Rose of the Wrecking Crew for Christ Holiness Church, located right here in South Central Los Angeles, California. Listen, folks, we have a great one on today. Hopefully this word will encourage you right where you are. As today will be coming from Genesis chapter 37, verses 24. And it simply reads, "And they took him and cast him into a pit." And this is a familiar text because we're basically coming from what happened with Joseph. And it said they took him and threw him into a pit. And this is very significant for the times that we're living in now, because as we know, the word is basically written metaphorically, which simply means the ability to compare. So from this viewpoint, we're going to visit exactly what our pit can look like. And symbolically speaking, of what our pit can look like simply means the situation or the circumstances that we find ourselves in currently. Currently, somebody's been thrown into a pit, and the name of that pit is subject to change. So since we understand that the name of the pit is subject to be changed, it may be a pit of depression. It may be a pit of stress. It may be a pit of anxiety. The name of someone's pit may be a pit of discouragement. And such things that are equivalent or alike, and everybody's pit usually isn't the same. So with looking at Joseph, when he was thrown into this pit by his brothers, the pit, basically, I would like to call it, if I may, to come up with a descriptive title to this message of the pit on today, I would simply say that my understanding has come to realize that it was just a pit of prep. And in saying that it was a pit of prep, I'm basically stating that the pit that we have been thrown in, or the pit or the situation of the circumstances that we may find ourselves in, is simply to prepare us, because the preparation becomes very strategic. And the pit that we've been thrown in, the preparation takes a process. In order for this process to begin, we literally have to be thrown or ushered or led or moved or guided into a situation or into something that is very uncomfortable. And I can imagine that what Joseph went through being thrown into this pit, the type of psychological and mental and emotional distractions that he had to navigate and fight through to basically keep his mind in a significant posture because the pit represented, and I have some notes, and I'll refer to these notes of addressing exactly the type of pit that Joseph was thrown into. So it states, a pit is symbolic of a place of danger and a spiritual trial and despair, representing concepts like the underworld entrapment or a state of hopelessness. Now, when we really understand this psychologically as well as emotionally, Joseph was confronted with many things psychologically and emotionally concerning this pit that he was thrown in, and these particular things that he was dealing with psychologically tried to literally control his mind. And I can imagine that the conversation that Joseph had with himself was that he had to literally tell himself, I cannot lose my mind because of my situation. Joseph had to have an intimate and secret and deep conversation with himself, telling himself, I cannot lose it excuse me, because of the situation and the circumstances at hand. Joseph had to literally tell himself, he had to have that conversation with himself. And every now and then we have to have a conversation with ourselves when we know exactly what to say. Because some of us and most of us have evidence of having the particular type of conversations with ourselves to where we've literally told ourselves, you might as well give up. So now we know, and see, this is foolishness, and it's self-destructive, and it becomes self-afflictive because of the foolishness of what we tell ourselves because of the right now situation. And see, the thing is, somebody right now is finding themselves in a situation, and the situation is overwhelming, and the situation literally is unbearable, and the situation is literally trying to take control and establish leverage and positioning in our life because the difficulties of it. So oftentimes when we're facing and we're in a pit of something that presents many difficulties, that's hard to overcome, that's hard to see, how does this have anything to do with my development? But see, the pit is simply to prepare and initiate and ignite and start and begin to continue the development. Because as we go on and read throughout Genesis chapter 2, God appeared to Joseph in a dream and showed him his purpose. So somebody literally needs to remind themselves the pit or the situation or the circumstances that I now find myself in. It's obvious that it is only designed to prepare me, and I cannot allow it to fool me, trick me, or come up against me because of the situation and the circumstances that I'm in. It seems very difficult. So oftentimes pits that in situations that we find ourselves in, it has power. And oftentimes we understand that it has the power to discourage. And being in the middle of a difficult situation that's causing us to be discouraged, we oftentimes begin to talk foolish from this point. And I can allow myself to begin to speak foolishly about myself, about my purpose, neither my development, because I'm now in my feelings about the pit that I'm in. And it can cause me to talk foolish and ignorantly concerning the pit that I'm in because I'm discouraged. Because now the pit or the situation and the circumstances that has frustrated me. See, now at this point, I'm frustrated. And I can imagine that when Joseph was thrown into the pit, he became frustrated. He had to fight the frustration of going from living and growing up in his father's house with his brothers and the comfortability of his home with his family to revealing his dream with the interpretation to his brothers and being hated on and being sent and thrown into a pit. But this is simply because God began to order his steps even at this point. So somebody say in the chat, the pit was purpose for my preparation. And see, God understands. We have to begin to discern and understand God's method. God's methods oftentimes it's hard to really understand or really get a grip or a handle on what God is actually trying to do in the things that he does, because it really doesn't make human or natural sense, but it makes spiritual sense, because he stated himself that his thoughts are not like our thoughts. So the thoughts of God implements a systematic structure of how he methodically orders our steps. And oftentimes, so Joseph's steps was ordered methodically from God to send him to his pit, to prepare him. So he needed Joseph to be in this lonely place. See, oftentimes when we going through, we get beside ourselves and we begin to think, well, where is everybody now that I'm going through this difficult thing? And see, God has really set it up perfect, because what seems like it is working against me, it is working for me. But in order for me to understand that it's working for me, this is the mindset that I must have, that is working for me. And I can't allow the pain to fool me and trick me and change my mind and change my terminology. The things that I choose to say about my situation dictates the disposition of my situation and where it's headed. See, I can't place myself in a position just because the difficulties of the situation and just because I feel it and just because it's frustrating and just because the situation of the pit is uncomfortable, and it brings on a sense of what? Despair. And he told me, because we began to look at ourselves based on our situation, based on our position, based on the circumstances that we now find ourselves in. It has a sense that it is trying to provoke, to get us to transform from the mind of Christ back to the old mind. And the old mind will literally say, and we'll begin to have a conversation with the old mind, saying, well, now since this is the pit or the situation or the circumstances that I find myself in, I might as well. And see, this is where Joseph had to examine himself and critically consider his ways. And I can just imagine that when Joseph examined himself when he was in the pit, he didn't realize that the pit was preparing him. But his posture while he was in the pit, he told himself, I need to cry out to God. And I need to cry out for knowledge. As Proverbs chapter 2 states, cry out for knowledge. And in crying out for the knowledge, it is literally lifting up my voice to understand. So the mindset that Joseph had to have was this: I won't allow myself to be overwhelmed and consumed by my pit, because my pit represents an uncomfortable position that I find myself in. And oftentimes when we're in an uncomfortable position, it has the ability and the power to cause psychological trauma. And the psychological trauma is a deadly thing to my mind and to me psychologically, because I begin to think foolishly. And once a man or woman begins to think foolishly, it causes us to speak things that are incorrect. And when we speak incorrectly, it possesses a major risk that is threatening to our purpose as well as our identity and the mindset and the disposition of what we're supposed to have. And see, the presentation of the pit is significant because I must keep my mind stayed on him while in my pit. And these are the different things that I can imagine that when Joseph was in his pit, he was wrestling with these thoughts and wrestling with these ideologies, which is basically the system of the way that we think. So we must exercise the control, the mind control that we must have, that when situations and circumstances present themselves in our life, that we must have the right attitude. And in order to have the right attitude, I must have the right mind about the particular or specific pit, which is symbolic of situations and circumstances. I must have the right attitude, the right mindset of the pit or the right now situation that I find myself in. Because oftentimes when we find ourselves in a situation, it can get to us if we don't have the right mindset. Our circumstances be so strong and we can feel it to the degree of that we're literally suffering in our situation, but the situation doesn't have power over us. We have power over the situation. But in order to recognize and know and function and operate out of the power over the situation, I got to keep my mind right while in the situation. And see, this is the position that God often has us in when he's preparing us. It has to be a difficult situation so that I can learn to discipline myself, to train and condition myself to keep my mind stayed on him, because the preparation of the pit is representing itself to me that this is the only situation that God saw fit that will cause me to examine myself and consider my ways to do so. So say he knows exactly where I'm at, where I'm going, and what I need, because it is according to his will. So God had to allow Joseph to be thrown into his pit to realign him. Because sometimes we get shown some things and we have a dream. And sometimes we begin to understand and come into the fullness of understanding parts of our purpose according to his will. So we understand that he says he will make our name great. And we understand that our steps is ordered. So when our steps is ordered and God is literally making our name great, he have to place us in these situations and then in these circumstances. And it'll cause people that are around us or maybe familiar with us or maybe too common with us to say they'll look at our situation and they'll have a thought or ask a question and say, if thou be a man or a woman of God, how could this be that you are going or experiencing this? Because they don't understand that the going through or the experience of the position of this particular pit is your preparation. They don't understand that God knows that this pit of preparation is necessary for the development that you are in, and that is functional, and that he is working for. He said his word declares that he that begun a good work. So this pit is a representation of the good work that God has begun. So the pit or the circumstances or the situations, whatever you choose to call it, it is this pit that Joseph found himself in. And so the pit wasn't designed to make us panic. The pit wasn't designed to make us worry and be anxious, because God declared in his word, he says, be anxious for nothing. So oftentimes when we find ourselves in our pit and it appears that we're suffering unbearably, but he said, I will not put too much on you more than you can bear, so to speak. I will not put too much on you than you can bear. So this is what God is putting on us. We need this pit that is part of our development and is not meant to destroy, or is not meant for us to have a mindset that we're hopeless, because he says that what hope never fails. So the pit is designed for him to prepare me, because he has me in this space and in this place where those that are around me can't even help me out of it. They may have assisted in throwing me in the pit, but their hearts was hardened concerning trying to help me out of it or get me out of it. They were only responsible to get me to the location of the pit, to help assist in throwing me in the pit on purpose. And we're looking at it like this, it caused Joseph not to hold resentment, unforgiveness, or bitterness against his brothers that were used to get him to the location to be thrown in this pit. Because Joseph understood that within the psychological and mental warfare that he faced with his carnal mind versus the spiritual mind, or the mind of Christ, he was in a tug of war, and he was wrestling between flesh and blood and spiritual things. He was wrestling with his flesh, and he was wrestling with the spirit. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God. So for the pulling down of every stronghold. So we understand that there were strongholds that was trying to implement themselves in his mind. And this is what happens when we think on our sufferings and our pit, our situations and our circumstances, when we look at it from a negative point of view. And we begin to despise the small beginnings of the situations that we find ourselves in. And this is the self-destructive and self-affliction part of it that causes the strongholds. See, he said to pull down every stronghold, which represents and highlights that the strongholds are located mentally. So see, we're pulling down the strongholds that are located in our mind, because it causes us to think from a negative disposition about our situation, about our pit and our circumstance. And God does not want us to hate our development. He wants us to hate our sin. Let me say that again. He's not trying to place us in a position to hate the development, to hate the process, because it's systematic. And our steps is being ordered. And this is a good work that he's literally begun. But the good work that he begun, it has to have a pit stop. So see, God, with our steps being ordered, we had to stop by some pits to be thrown in these pits that is a part of our development. And see, people can't help us when we've been thrown into these situations and these circumstances, because if they try to help us while we're being developed, we're literally allowing them the permission and giving them the power, the access, and the authority to cut our development. And this becomes critical, and it's risky to allow people to help you sometime in your situation, cutting your development or trying to pray you or pull you or grab you out of your development, because you'll begin to operate dysfunctional and prematurely. See, as another analogy or illustration or example, if you're going to bake a cake or you got some cornbread in the oven, you can't cut the development or the process of the cake and the cornbread, because it's not going to all the way be done right. And you're going to literally have to throw it away. It'll be no good. It'll be ruined. So in other terms, looking at it from the point of view of this Living Water Wednesday encouragement, don't allow yourself to be placed in a position to where you give people the authority and the access to try to help you and pull you up out of your pit too fast, because you won't be fully developed, and they'll be cutting your development, which can hinder and hurt you. Because remember, he showed you in a dream your purpose and how he wants to use you. So basically you in part the assignment that he's given you. Now he's developing you to bring that assignment to pass. And you can't allow your development to be cut. You can't allow your development to be mishandled. You can't allow your development to be stopped, because it'll almost literally ruin the assignment. And he had to give the assignment to someone else. And now your gifts will be buried. And now your identity has been changed. And now your mind has been changed. And it alters purpose, identity, and direction. You've now become detoured in the process to where how God was ordering your steps and how he was trying to lead you and guide you with his purpose. So sometimes we can often get overly anxious to hurry up and get out of our situation, because it is a pit. And as we heard when I read from these notes what the pit represents, and then it says, depending on the context, it can also symbolize a place of transformation. So the pit symbolizes a place of transformation. So with understanding it this way, I have to understand that it is transforming my mind. And this lines up with the word, because it says, be ye transformed by the renewing of my mind. So the process of becoming transformed by the renewing of my mind, God must order my steps to be thrown into a situation. So basically, God created this situation, and he created these circumstances that is problematic. And because it is problematic, he wants me to cry out to him, so I can allow pride or hopelessness or despair or depression or stress or anxiety. Because once I begin to worry, it unlocks anxiety. And when anxiety sits, anxiety grows and gets stronger, and now anxiety attacks. So now I'm under attack by my own anxiety because of my worry and because of stressing and dwelling on my situation psychologically and mentally. So now I'm a wreck. So now my mind, it has caused confusion. And God already told me, he says, I'm not the author of confusion, but I'm the author and the finisher of your faith. So the process of this pit psychologically and mentally is basically set up and designed for me to go from faith to faith. He's increasing my faith by the pit that he allowed me to be thrown in, because he designed the pit. So he had to have some folks get me there to throw me in the pit, because you're not going to necessarily technically walk yourself into a pit. And then sometimes we do, because we're very we enter into self-afflictions. Sometimes we cause ourselves to go through some things, and he has a plan for that as well. So sometimes we get ourselves into some stuff that is self-afflictive, and it causes self-destruction. And usually, if that's the case, it's because we suffer from the lack of knowledge. And when we suffer from the lack of knowledge, it tends to provoke us and initiates disobedience. And it's not that we intentionally meaning to be disobedient. We just suffer from the lack of knowledge of what to do versus what not to do. So what he's saying, a lack of knowledge does not mean we don't have any. It means the measure that we have, we don't have enough. Or the measure that we operating out of it foolishly or ignorantly, not fully comprehending how to use what he gave us. So sometimes we can have it, but we use it incorrectly. We don't use what we know. We don't use the knowledge right. And then some of us enter into a position or a disposition to where we become haters of knowledge. We don't want to seek or work or have to dig or search or seek for the knowledge. And see, this is where we begin to suffer, because it is not the punishment of God. It is the consequences of being a hater of knowledge and not seeking the knowledge or crying out for the knowledge, as it states in Proverbs chapter 2. So when crying out for the knowledge is because, God, I need to know what you're saying to me, what I'm doing to myself, and how to deal with what is already in me, because I got some behaviors, and I got some character flaws, and I got some dispositions, and I got some ways that I know that's not like you. And while I'm in this situation, I've already become conditioned. And I'm conditioned to refer or relapse back into these old ways, and back into these old characters, and back into these old mindsets. And I'm provoked and stimulated psychologically and through my flesh, that when I'm going through some stuff, my flesh could be stimulated to relapse and go back to the Hennessy. And I know that this situation is not designed for me to return back to the Hennessy. And I know that the situation that I'm in is not designed for me to relapse and go back to the chronic, or go back to the depression, or go back to the stress, or go back to the pills, or go back to manic depression, or go back to all these different things. It is designed to prepare me But if I have a desire to go back to these old things, it also represents I still need some deliverance. And I still need to get the knowledge of how to deal with these things that are still in me. And in order to recognize these things that are still in me that I must address, God, I need discernment. I need you to unlock and give me the insight so that I can see and discern what's going on with me. Because I understand, as Paul says, it must be a member that is warring within me. So the good that I want to do, that I do not. And the wrong that I don't want to do, this is what I do. Because there's some things that are still in me. And I'm often confronted with these things that are in me when I find myself in a pit. When I find myself in a situation. When I'm under pressure. When I'm stressed out. When I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm stimulated all over again within my flesh to quickly want to relieve myself by pleasuring myself, by seeking things that are pleasing to the flesh to change the way that I feel. So oftentimes I relapse and revert back to doing things that I shouldn't do, that I know that's wrong to you, God, because of the way that I feel. So this is highlighted as, when we find ourselves in this pit, to remain in the Spirit. For he says, if you walk according to the Spirit, and if you live in the Spirit, walk in the Spirit, and if you walk in the Spirit, live in the Spirit. And this is where this comes in. So I must condition myself and practice and work on walking and living in the Spirit as much as I can, because I can't afford to be in my flesh, because there's going to be a pit stop because my steps is ordered. And I don't need to be in my flesh when I come to this pit stop that I'm about to be thrown in, because I cannot be thrown into this pit being in my flesh. Because I'm going to understand it and deal with it from a carnal mentality. And when I do this, I'm basically giving place to the enemy to enter in and control my mind psychologically and with these strongholds. And I'm basically giving him access to rule, direct, and control the foundation of my mind. And the foundation of my mind is the location where I need to establish the word of God, which is the principles that I need to stand on. So the enemy want me to see my pit as it is against me and not for me. And see, this is where he's trying to manipulate choices and the decisions that I need to make concerning how I interpret my situation. He wants me to interpret my situation, my circumstances, my issues, and my problems. He wants me to interpret them, basically understand them incorrectly. And I can imagine that this is the battle, the psychological battle and warfare that Joseph was up against because of being thrown into this pit. But I came to tell you on today that the pit that you've been thrown in has basically been designed for you to be prepared. That pit that you've been thrown in, that seems like it's a difficult situation, or if it's a difficult spot to be in because it's very uncomfortable. And some of us enter into different pits back to back. And what this simply means is if I may shed some divine light, it simply means that the process or the development has been accelerated. And there's really no time for you to take a breath and then you back in another pit. And usually when we find this, we say, if it ain't one thing, it's another. And see, at this point, we'll begin to repeat what Job said, or Job's mentality became, if it ain't one thing, it's another. And when it's like this, it appears that it's back to back. Once I come out of one thing, here's something else that I'm confronted with, and here's something else that I must face. But it simply means my development has been accelerated. So God literally wants to do a quick work in me when he sends me when I'm on my journey, because my steps is ordered, and I come to a pit stop to be thrown in it. Then he releases me from this pit, and he still ordered my steps, and we still on this journey, holding on to his unchanging hand. We find ourselves making another pit stop and being thrown into that pit. The development has just been accelerated because there's a need for what he placed in me. And he has to accelerate the development to get me to the place at the right time where he wants to use me, because it's needed what he placed in me. Much is given, much is required. So he's requiring that of me that he's given me, and he's accelerated the pace of my development. But he's had to implement these pits for me to be thrown in, because they're preparing me. Somebody put in the chat, don't despise small beginnings. So I literally, because he gave me a dream, and the interpretation or the vision that he gave me of where he's taking me or how he wants to use me is still coming to pass. He's doing it because it's already written. And when something is basically already written, it's done, and it shall come to pass. But there's a development. There's a process, and it's systematic because God is the order of my steps, and he's the author and the finisher of my faith. So these pits are designed to take my faith from level to level, because I'm going to need it where I'm going for what I have to do, because he's already imparted it. So the pit is not designed to discourage me. It's designed for me to die to my flesh. The pit is not designed to depress me. It's designed for me to be encouraged and to continue to trust and believe God. For the word, it is written that if I keep my mind stayed on him, he will keep me in perfect peace. So this is what Joseph's mental disposition was. He determined that I cannot look at my surroundings and the situation that I'm in, because I know what God showed me. I know what God told me. I know where I'm going. He gave me an understanding about it. He allowed me and my brothers to interpret it. I grabbed it, I received it, I believe it, and I confessed it out of my mouth. I now find myself in this pit. Let me keep my mind stayed on him while I'm in this pit, and cry out to him for knowledge, because I need to know, God, what you're doing and what this is about, because I don't want to hate the process. I don't want to hate my development. I don't want to hate the knowledge. I don't want this situation that you have me in make me double cross you. I don't want this situation, this pit that you have me in, make me double-minded against you, causing me to doubt. Because you're the lifter of my head and you're ordering my steps. I don't want this pit that I'm in to cause me to curse you to your face, because it's uncomfortable. And I don't fully understand exactly what you're doing. See, Joseph had basically almost had a right to say, God, you didn't show me this. God, how is this a part of the plan? What part of the game is this? You showed me based on the vision and the dream that you gave me that I was supposed to rule, that I had supreme authority, that I was the lender and not the borrower, that I was given dominion, that I was in a high superior place that you placed me in with authority, with wealth, high ranking position and prestige and status. What part of the game is this? That after you showed me that, gave me the interpretation about it because you unlocked the insight about it, gave me an understanding and some wisdom concerning it, why now do I find myself in a pit? See, I can imagine that this is the conversation that Joseph was having with himself and his expression to God. God, this don't make no sense. What does this pit have to do with my purpose? What does this pit have to do with the position that you showed me in? And God is simply telling Joseph, as he's told me, and I'm telling you, that is preparation. Don't give up in your pit just because you're in an uncomfortable position. Don't get full of despair or weary in well-doing because you're in your pit. But understand that the pit is your preparation. It's a part of it. It comes with the territory. You were led to that position. Your job in that position becomes to posture yourself in a position to where you're crying out to God for the knowledge. Lifting up your voice to understand. He said, if any man lack wisdom, to ask for it, and he'll give it. Which basically means he'll give you access to seek and search for the wisdom, and you shall find her, and her worth is equivalent to silver. So it's very valuable to ask for the wisdom and seek for it, search for it. And when you go after it, you have to go after it hard, like you really want it. And see, okay, let me change the channel. If you go after somebody like you really don't want them, it's a great chance that you're not going to get them. Because they're going to discern and say, you don't really want me. You're not really into me like that. See, you used to getting something quick and easy, and I'm not quick and easy. Don't treat me simple. Because he also said in Proverbs chapter 1, O ye simple ones, how long will you be lovers of simplicity? And it simply means you want it easy, you want it quick, and you want it right now. And you don't want to have to put in no work to get it. And as people, this is the type of ideology. And this is the type of behavior and character that we have, that we can get something quick and don't have to really work for it or dig for it, because if we have to break a sweat for it, we ain't trying to do all that. Somebody put in the chat, yeah, I ain't trying to do all that. And this will be transparent, because it'll be telling the truth that I ain't trying to put in a whole lot of work just to get a meal. I just open up the pack and I just put it in the microwave and I just press 2. And I'll come back and get it when the beep go on, and then I can season it and put some hot sauce on it or use some barbecue sauce, and I can eat it because it's ready. See, we want it like that. So we used to want stuff to be either already prepared for me to just come get it, and I had to do all A, B, C, and X, Y, Z for it and get it and all. We don't want to work for it. And God said, I don't want you to treat me simple and easy. I need you to work for this. So I'm giving you the platform, the example, and the posture that you need to have in the steps of coming after me to cry out for the knowledge that you need. And in crying out for the knowledge that you need, it is lifting up your voice to me for understanding. And I'm going to be attentive to your voice. And I'm going to hearken, which means listen and be attentive to the voice of your cry. Because I know what you're going to pray before you prayed it, and I already done it. But in posturing yourself this way and in this fashion, you are building a rapport with me. And now I understand that you understand that you are in a relationship with me, because I've placed you in a pit to cause you to have to cry out to me. Because see, the situation is, you got to come see me. So I need to prepare you by throwing you in this pit to make sure you come see me. Because I told you to come see me, but you hard-headed. And you hard-headed because you established your own righteousness and you didn't got busy. And with establishing your own righteousness, you got busy doing you, when you're supposed to be seeking my face. And establishing your own righteousness, you got busy because you got some goals and some aspirations. But the plans that I have for you are of good and not of evil. So I need you to come see me about something. But you ignoring me, and you belong to me, and the plans that I have for you and the thoughts that I have of you are of good and not of evil. But you caught up in your head about some stuff, and you trying to go do you. And see, this is foolishness to me, and this is where you real faulty at. And since I understand these behaviors and these characters and this type of attitude that you have, and it's real faulty to me, let me tell you this. I'm going to look past your fault because I see your need. So I'm aware of your faults. Yeah, you real faulty with how you trying to get at me and how you trying to come at me, because I'm not on your mind. Your situation is. I'm not on your mind. Your children and your circumstances is. I'm not on your mind. But that man or that woman is. I'm not on your mind. But your pit, you got your pit on your mind. You got your problems on your mind. And see, you're not really listening because you don't really know me like you're supposed to, because I told told you that I'm a very present help in the time of your trouble. And see, now that you find yourself in some trouble, you don't understand that I'm right there. And then you're going to cry out to me just because you're in trouble. So you don't really want me. You just want me to address and shift and change and get you out of your trouble. And since I understand this, I'm going to kind of play your game a little bit because I love you. But I want you to understand that when I show up in your trouble, because I'm a very present help in it, just because you're in trouble don't mean I left. I'm trying to get your attention. So let me play your game a little bit. What I'm going to do, since you are in trouble, I'm going to be right there. And my mercy and my grace is going to be on it. And I'm going to have compassion on you. So let me give you these instructions. Cry out to me. Cry out for the knowledge. Lift up your voice for the understanding. And when you do this, I will see you as righteous. And once I see you as righteous, then I will know that you're beginning to understand the fear of the Lord, because the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom of how I should posture myself and live and walk correctly, to where when God will understand and see and know that I'm trying to walk upright. Now that he considers me righteous in this position, even though I'm in my pit, because my pit is equivalent to my calamity. And while it being equivalent to my calamity only shows up through disobedience. But in this context, for this Living Water Wednesday, Joseph wasn't in disobedience. He was in process. He was in preparation by being in that pit. So he needed to cry out to God so that God can incline his ear to hearken to the voice of Joseph's cry, because his pit could have drove him up a wall mentally, causing mental health issues, causing psychological issues, causing mental health as well as physical health issues, giving access to spirits to come in, overtaking and controlling, all because of his mindset and where he kept his mind concerning how he looked at as well as thought about his pit. But Joseph knew that his pit was preparation. So he didn't complain, because he understood that God was with him in his situation and in his circumstances. So his mental posture was to keep God on his mind. See, the scripture came to life in his mind. Joseph, if you keep your mind stayed on me. Reuben, if you keep your mind stayed on me. So-and-so, if you keep your mind stayed on me. See, you need to put your name there where Joseph's name is at. If you keep your mind stayed on me. I know you in a pit, but keep your mind stayed on me. I know it's overwhelming, but keep your mind stayed on me. I know it's trying to work your nerves, but keep your mind stayed on me. I know that it's trying to stress you out, but put your mind on me. I know you feel like you've been bagged into a corner, but put your mind on me. Don't look at it, look at me. And see, if you look at me and keep your mind on me, I now know that you can trust me. Show me that you trust me. Show me that you want me. Show me that I'm your everything. But if you're looking and thinking about and looking toward any other thing, you're giving that other thing power, position, and leverage to become your God. See, somebody got their children on their mind and not God. Somebody got their money on their mind and not God. Somebody got their household and their situation and their business and their health on their mind, but they don't have their mind on God. So they don't have no peace. And they stuck in it. But in God, we're not stuck in things. We go through things being more than a conqueror and overcoming the things that we're going through. So it's working for us, although our flesh or the enemy wants us to believe that it is working against us. So your pit, you must know and decree and declare and speak out of your mouth that my pit is only preparation. My pit is not designed to destroy me. The pit that I'm in is not designed to send me back and stress me out and overwhelm me. The pit or the situation or the circumstances that I find myself in is not designed to discourage me or make me feel hopeless or full of despair. It's not designed to cause me to relapse, to return to some things that I once depended on. It's not designed to depress me. It is preparing me for the work that I must do, for the assignment that God has given me. That's according to His will. So I must allow my steps to be ordered by keeping my mind on Him and not allow myself to be tricked and fooled and double-minded about my situation. See, the game that the enemy tried to play and how he's trying to deceive me is he wants me to continue to entertain my pain. He wants me to look at and entertain my suffering. He wants me to look and entertain my situation and my circumstances. And he wants me to be in my head about it. And once I'm in my head about stuff, I could get stuck there for a long time. And see, this is risky and it's self-afflictive and self-destructive to the mind of Christ. And it causes me to stay into that carnal mindset for too long, giving access to the enemy. And once the enemy come in, he's coming in like a flood. He's coming in with everything because I'm worrying. So worry, anxiety attacks, distress, fear, depression, discouragement, all psychological trauma, which has caused now psychological abuse. So now I need to visit where it says in the scripture, be ye transformed by the renewing of my mind, and pulling down every stronghold. So with all these things and all these strongholds that are in my mind concerning what I go through, because I'm in my head about my pit, it has literally built a psychological mountain. And this is where he says to speak to the mountain that it be removed over to yonder's place. So the location of the mountain that I have the power and the authority to speak to is psychological. It's mental. And it's causing beams to be in my eye, affecting my sight. And once something affects our sight, it alters our perception. And it triggers and alters our perspective. So now I'm not seeing it the right way, and I'm not thinking about it the right way. I'm looking at it and thinking about it incorrectly. And so in doing so, it's put me in this headspace, affected me emotionally. Now I have mixed emotions about my development. Now I'm possessed with mixed emotions about the direction that God is ordering my steps in. Now I have mixed emotions about my process. And I know that I prayed, Lord, let it be thy will and not mine. But now, since I'm in my head about some stuff, I'm seeing it the wrong way and I'm thinking about it incorrectly. My perception and my perspective has been detoured and it's been altered and it's caused a shift. And the shift that it has caused, now I'm operating from a different foundation in my mind. My principles has changed. Now I'm standing on me because it appears that all the praying and the fasting and the laying hands and the pouring of the oil, it seems like it's not working because I find myself in this pit. But the devil is a lie. He's trying to trick me by my circumstances and my situations, and because I'm uncomfortable right up in here. And since I'm uncomfortable right up in here, whoever's around me, I now have to ask the question, who let the devil in? Oh yeah, see, somebody let the devil in because I never even thought or conceive or think, or I was never able to see that the pit was part of the process. So somebody let the devil in. Because we know once we let the devil in, it's hard to get him out. But see, and this becomes the humor and the laughter of the devil. He's laughing because it's not him. But he needs you to accuse him of being the one that is responsible for your pit. But as we can see, as we read in Genesis, when it comes to Joseph, the enemy was not responsible for Joseph's pit. It was all orchestrated and designed and led by God to prepare him. Consider this. See, when we consider these things, it causes us to critically think about it and brainstorm the metaphorical analogies of it. And this is what sharpens our comprehension, edifying us and strengthening us and giving us an understanding. Because God said, when you posture yourself this way to cry out for the knowledge, lift up your voice to understanding, you're in the correct posture, because I consider you righteous now, since you've done this, since you've sacrificed and done this to consecrate yourself, to seek my face, to seek after me. Now you acting like you really want me, because I'm looking at your lifestyle. I'm looking at your posture. If you ain't set up to spend time with me, you ignore me and you don't really want to know enough about me, because revelation comes through relationship. Strangers is not going to know the intimate secret parts of you being a stranger until they've postured and positioned themselves with putting forth the effort that you recognize for you to give them access to get close to you, to really get to know you before you start revealing secrets. And see, this is how God operates. I'm not going to let you know the intimate secret parts of who I am until you position and posture yourself to really get to know me. And I know that you for real about me, and you coming after me for real, like you got some sense. Because see, if you don't do this, then I understand the kind of game that you're trying to play. And the game that you're trying to play is you want something quick and easy. And you trying to treat me like a cheap date. You trying to get something from me, but you don't really want me. And I know what you after. And this is foolish to me. And you real faulty about how you trying to get at me. So it's obvious that I need to give you some instructions, but you won't posture yourself to get the instructions. You won't incline your ear to cry out to the knowledge that I need to give you, because this is very valuable to you, because it's going to benefit you. But you're so ignorant and you suffer from a lack of knowledge, and you so lazy and you so into what you want to do and what you trying to get, you don't even know how to come at me to get what you need. And I'm laughing because it's going to backfire on you, and you did this. I'm not doing it, for it is written. And since it's written, you activated it because you disobedient. It is written, and you activated it because of your rebellion. It is written, and you activated because you ignorant. It's written, and you activated it because you all about you and not about me. And see, this is what it is. So Joseph knew that God gave me a vision. He gave me a dream. He gave me insight to the dream and the vision, which was discernment. He gave me an understanding, discerning heart to apply understanding to my heart, to the insight of the vision of the dream that I now discern and understand. He showed me how he wants to use me and where he's taking me. I didn't understand the full process, but just based on the initial vision or the dream and him allowing me the interpretation and the understanding, I need to trust what he showed me. I need to trust the vision that he gave me. I need to trust the dream that he showed me, and not worry about the direction that he's leading me, because I'm holding on to his unchanging hand, because he said I can't be plucked out of his hand. See, when God's hands is on you, you ain't got to worry about the type of pit that you're going to fall in. Just that you're going to be thrown in, Just know that it is designed to prepare you and not destroy you. When you led by God and you trust him, and you holding on to his unchanging hand, you don't got to worry about how many pits you're going to be thrown in. Just trust him. So God is asking a question on today, and he's asking all of us, including me. Yes, you're in a situation and you're in a circumstance and you're uncomfortable, and it may even seem a little embarrassing. They looking, their mouth is on it, and they laughing at you. It's a struggle. It's hard. It's difficult. It's almost unbearable. It's pushing and it's pulling on you. It almost makes you feel like you want to give up. Will you trust me that I know what I'm doing? You belong to me. I know where you're going, and I know how to use you. And I showed you bits, pieces, and parts of it through dreams and visions. And I've talked to you, and I've sent my prophets, my men, and my women of God to confirm it. Will you trust me to prepare you for what I have released to you when I throw you in this pit? And see, this is how to understand it. So somebody put it at you, I can't panic just because I'm in my pit. I can't panic just because I'm in my pit. I'm being prepared for purpose, for positioning, and for prosperity. I'm being prepared to succeed. because he's making my name great. And see, this is the type of attitude, and this is the type of stance and posture that we're supposed to have when we realize we've been thrown in our pit, and that it is all designed to prepare us for our purpose, to position us, to prosper, to do a work, and to be rewarded with benefits, weapons, power for God's will. Let this become a mindset. Go back and listen to exactly what's being said, and visit the book of Genesis and read about Joseph, and compare what you've been told in this Living Water Wednesday, and you'll begin to see and understand what God has said to us today. See, it's not enough to read it. We have to study it. And when you study it, you'll be given the interpretation and the understanding of what God is saying. This is not a surface level interpretation and understanding of what it is that is being said out of the mouth of God. For he said, if you posture yourself correctly, I will give you wisdom. I will give you sound wisdom, knowledge and understanding coming straight out of my mouth. And once you posture yourself in this disposition, which is a mental disposition, you have to strengthen your mind with discipline and patience to get this. And once you position yourself in this position, I'll become a buckler to you. And a buckler simply means you have the shield of faith, and then you have a small shield that is blocking any attacks from the enemy. He said, then I'll protect you, because you'll understand what it means to fear me, and you'll be able to find the knowledge of God. And I'll give you sound wisdom out of my mouth with knowledge and understanding. And this is what this is. So I pray that all those that tuned in to Living Water Wednesday and eating this supper with me that have been prepared for us all, I encourage you to stay encouraged. And don't be dismayed, neither discouraged by your pit, because it is preparation for the building up of your faith. Because God has fully equipped us. There is no temptation known unto man that he has not allowed us to be overly tempted or caught up or stuck in, where he will provide a way of escape. The pit is preparation. Don't let the enemy or the voice of the enemy tell the enemy voice unrecognized. This situation that I'm in is not meant to destroy me. And if you meant it for evil from my own self-affliction, if I love God, it'll work for my good. Because he's turning it. If it so happened to be from my own self-affliction and me being self-destructive and getting myself into this pit and in situations and circumstances, the qualifications for it to be worked out for my good is for me to love God. And he'll begin to turn it for my good, and it'll work together for my good because I love him. Share this live on today with somebody that they may be encouraged, that they may be strengthened, that it will provoke them to look toward the hills which cometh their help, because all their help comes from God. I don't often like to come on lives, but I've been placed in a position to open up my mouth and to teach guide, minister, motivate, inspire, coach, and lead and give information, instruction, to break down line upon line, precept on precept, share, restore, strengthen, intervene, that you may be helped. We're put if we put each other's needs before ours. The sharpening of the iron simply means we sharpen one another unto a sword. Continue to position yourself to sharpen one another's iron into that sword that cuts through the marrow and the bone. That sword. Understanding that we are a threat and a weapon and not a target. That'll be it on today for Living Water Wednesday. Be blessed. I pray that you continue to be encouraged, be strengthened, that you pray that God order your steps, that he give and show you mercy and grace concerning your situation and your circumstances. I pray that you be psychologically transformed by the renewing of your mind, from the old man or woman to the new creature, to the mind of Christ. I pray that you receive this word on today wholeheartedly, and that it has provoked and started and ignited a fire for you to be on fire for God, for that it may have provoked an appetite for you to hunger and thirst after righteousness, and that you will seek and search after God wholeheartedly and for real, because that you really want him, and that he will be pleased and bless you for your efforts, for seeking ye first the kingdom of God and all his righteousness. Then all the things shall be added. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you, Facebook. Y'all be blessed.